What's going on, guys? My name is RagingRaptor and I welcome you to the second installment of Weekly World of Tanks news. Today we have the news from the 4th of April until the 10th, or the 3rd of April until the 10th of April. And well, today we have quite some interesting things. First of all, we have a look at the super test changes going all the way around the Tiger 1, Tiger 2 and the VK3601H. Then we are going to have a glance at the armor model of the Stridswagen K and the Concept 1B, two Tier 9 potential reward vehicles. Then we're going to have a look at the changes on CT3 as well as some issues I and especially a viewer has with them. And at the end we're going to have a look at this week's event, most importantly the weekend event and some more stuff. Let me know if you like this a little bit more, where we have a look first at super test and then test server and then everything else. That would be great. And as always, let's just jump right in. So the first thing is the super test changes to the VK3601H, the Tiger 1 and the Tiger 2. Let's start with the VK. Here we can see that the tank gets a decent chunk more of hit points, but this is more due to the fact that update 1.9 exists. So we get 1100 hit points for stock turret and 1200 for top turret. Also, nothing really changed for most guns except for a little bit increase in rounds, which is understandable. But the top gun, the 8.8 centimeter KWK36, will gain a little bit of better accuracy and a decent jump in accuracy during turret traverse speed. Like, this is a pretty substantial buff in my personal opinion. I do consider though that most people will use the 7.5 centimeter Waffe because it is just more forgiving, I think, and has much better penetration than the 8.8 centimeter KWK. Speaking about the KWK, little trivia, KWK stands for Kampfwagenkanone, which means basically tank gun. That's literally how it is. Kampfwagen means battle wagon and Kanone is a gun. So now let's jump to the Tiger 1, and here we get not really any more information except for that the different guns, they do receive more rounds, which again is understandable. Tier 7s will see a lot more Tier 5s and Tier 6 where they have their HP buffed. Important, however, is that the top KWK-43L71 gun did receive a minor buff in aim time, obviously a minuscule buff to DPM. This is actually, in my personal opinion, a slight nerf because I personally enjoy guns more where I have a high rate of fire than high alpha damage. But that's just me personally. But there was a pretty big buff for using HE rounds, so if you know how to use or abuse HE rounds against tanks like a Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger or other very weakly armored tanks like a Setter, those HE will do a shite load of damage. And now comes the biggest changes. Wargaming finally tells us what is going to happen to the Tiger 2's armor. And look at that. First things first, the frontal hull armor will be buffed from 150 to 160 millimeters. That sounds not that much in my opinion. Sure, the angle is decent, but it still sounds meh, I would say. Also, this throws up questions, which I highly doubt, however, that changes to the Jagdtiger or Jagdtiger and Jagdtiger 88 will happen. I don't think so, but at least it's something, because I do know that most Tier 10 and Tier 9 opponents can just spam right through the upper hull of the Tiger 2 without any issues. However, Wargaming buffed the frontal turret armor from 185 millimeters to 245. I personally have to say that this is insane. Obviously, this is the King Tiger. This one is not getting touched. But now just keep in mind that this turret front will get buffed by 60 millimeters. Sure, it is flat as fuck, but it literally from now where even Tier 7 opponents, some Tier 7 opponents can simply spam right through your turret front, this will be gone. Literally. Even some Tier 9 opponents will have issues penetrating your turret front with ease. So that is very interesting. The only real questions which still arise is how effective will be the upper front plate buff? Will there be a lower plate buff, which I highly hope not so? And most importantly, what is happening to the turret roof, because we do know the turret roof to be a pretty significant weak spot, especially against overmatching 122mm guns, which are sadly all around this tier for Russian guns, you know. But those are the big changes, I would say. Lastly, obviously, there are some changes to DPMs, like the L71 gun did receive a pretty huge DPM increase by 400, which is great, in my opinion. Then, obviously, some more changes were made to the 10.5cm gun. Let's have a look at the top gun in top configuration. And we can see that the DPM got buffed by a decent chunk, by around 240 damage, and the HE was also a little bit buffed, but that's not so much. Personally, I would say if you really want to be a DPM monster, go for the 8.8cm KWK L71 gun. Because if you know what you're doing and can work around the pretty poor penetration rate for this tier, you have an insane DPM, 2600. It's almost 500 DPM more than what the top gun gives you. So that is pretty interesting in my personal opinion. But again, this is still super test. There can be tons of changes. This wasn't even tested yet on test servers and so on. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about those changes. And now let's jump to the test server, where we have a look at the changes of the STRV K. By the way, I do hope I'm now pronouncing it a little bit better. So, Wargaming decided to do some reshuffling again, because there were some changes in the previous iteration and Wargaming decided to go back again. And the most important thing is to take away, the tank became more inaccurate on the move, on the hull movement. It is almost on par with the stage 2, it is that bad. However, the turret accuracy got buffed, so if you keep your hull steady and don't move it and just wiggle your turret, you have a pretty accurate gun on turret movement. Then Wargaming decided to lower the prices for the different shell rounds. They did buff the DPM again to 2300, gave it a faster turret, better aim time, and a little bit more HP, but they did nerf the speed from 55 to 40 and from 15 to 18 and give it back again its 670 horsepower engine. And lastly, they did buff the movement or mobility again and nerfed the view range. Plus the tank now has 5 crew members, which as far as I know is the historical accuracy. So that is pretty interesting, but I personally would say let's just jump into the armor model of the STRV K, because again, don't forget this is already on 1.9 test server. And as you probably already see, it is indeed the Kranwagen hull. However, the Kranwagen has obviously the big advantage that it has its almost impenetrable turret with 13 degrees of gun depression, or 12, I'm not entirely sure. You can already see where the STRV K will have its issue, where for example, right here, where the turret ring protrudes over the armor model or over the hull, you can get penetrated with basically every single gun from tier 9 onwards, because most tank guns are above 90mm of caliber. Here it's a little bit harder, but in the end the turret, for a heavy tank, it's okay, I'd say, but as soon as you get shot at with premium rounds, be prepared to get a new butthole implanted in your turret front, because 254mm of armor in no angle whatsoever is not going to hold off any premium rounds, especially with gold spamming S-Cox and conks all around, you know. That is like the issue I'm having with this being a heavy tank, you know. However, because Wargaming did kind of wanted to give it a better movement or something, you could probably use this more as a heavy medium hybrid, where it lies a little bit more on the heavy side because it is not as fast as mediums. So this could obviously work. Still, don't forget the Centurion 7.1 turret is still pretty formidable for its tier, and you can bounce a shite ton of shots. The good thing is the gunman that is pretty thick, and if we are removing the spaced armor, you can see that behind it, it has a pretty nifty angle. Only beside the gun, there are some major weak spots where with just 240mm of armor, you should be able to punch right through and hit the zero armor behind it. The cupola, on the other hand, is pretty weak with just 89mm of armor, with no angle whatsoever, but I have to say, I like it, you know? We don't need another Super Conqueror in that sense. We don't need another Conqueror in that sense, or Navy Phase 1, or another tank you can't hit the cupola off. So that's pretty decent. Obviously, side scraping, you can do it, you don't have overmatch, but let's be honest, the upper hull plate armor is 90mm thick. It will be lucky if you bounce anything. If you know how to play hull down, the Stridswagen K definitely will help you a lot out with its armor. However, keep in mind, you are a hull down heavy tank. You are a tank which, sadly enough, artillery will love, because you're not going. If you have a good hull down position, you want to keep that. And with 80mm and 28mm of deck and turret roof armor, will be pretty hard, don't you think? But yeah, that's the Stridswagen K. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comment section below when I forgot anything. Maybe this one right here, it's just 40mm thick, so it can be overmatched by Russian guns, but it will be pretty hard to hit in my personal opinion. So goes for this pixel right there. Speaking of which, it looks like it's slightly off-center, I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, this is what I was looking forward to, the Concept 1B. It's such a weird looking heavy tank, and it is basically another heavy medium tank hybrid, and just look at this. Like, honestly, I know people which say I hate the looks of this, and I'm like, oh, it's so cool looking in my opinion. It also looks pretty formidable when it comes to its armor layout. This one right here looks like a weak spot, but with 90mm in such an acute angles, will be pretty hard to shoot through. The upper plate and the lower plate are pretty weak-ish, so once again, this will be a hull-down vehicle, and most likely it will have its issues aiming its gun down from the front, you know, because of this huge part right here. Also, I want to point out, the turret front armor is not that thick. It's just 250mm. Sure, here it is obviously angled downwards, so it's having a very effective armor. But down here it's just 250 with no real, you know, sloping. Same goes for the gun mantlet, and here we might have the same issue which we have with the AE Phase 1, where you can shoot underneath its cheeks and just penetrate straight through, because this is just, well, it's still 230mm thick, but yeah, it is hard to judge just yet. It looks very interesting, and you can see that behind the gun mantlet there's no armor, so you just have to penetrate this 230 or 210mm of armor to push right through. Also, look at that, 25mm of armor. That is super weak. Like, holy boily. That is super weak, meaning literally anything you will face will be able to overmatch these positions. And the tank looks like to be very, very flat, you know? So that will be interesting. But if you know what you're doing and hiding your cupola and, hiding your hull, you have a very, 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 very strong hull down tank. Like, this up here can only be overmatched by 152+ guns, like the one on the 268 version 4, the normal 268, the T110 E3, E4, and T30, as well as Foch 155, and obviously the other bigger calibers. But look at this right here. It's 130mm thick, but once again at such an acute angle, it will be very, very hard to hit. Yes, the cupola back here on flat surfaces is not strong. 130mm, that's nothing. But again, don't forget this tank will probably be standing like this in a hull down position, and then you have ridiculous amounts of armor. So as much as I love this Concept 1B, from the looks of it, from the stats of it, and how it will probably perform in battle, I still can't really shake off the feeling that this tank may or may not be a little bit too strong. I don't know, it just feels very, very strong. Also, look at that, 120mm of side armor. Either this is a bug, or you can actually side scrape with this vehicle, because those plates, those might be issues, but this one right here, but it will be hard to hit because of your really weird thingy neck here. Nevertheless, I'm looking forward to this tank. I very much look forward to this tank, but it's hard to say how it will perform. On the one hand, it looks not so strong, on the other hand, it looks busted. That's what I can say. Now, let's jump to what happened to Test 3, and I want to say that basically nothing happened, just some bug fixes, and I literally just want to skip forward because there's something which a viewer sent me, and he is totally correct. I do want to make another video about this where I wanna make more information about this issue, because this is the big deal, and he said it. And by the way, no apologies for mailing me. I'm totally happy if you want to talk to me in private about some things. I'm just picking this out because you wrote it down very well. I did remove the name, obviously, because I don't want to hurt your privacy. Point is, I do not play a lot of low tiers. I think it is more than knowledgeable, or many people know this. And this is why I most of the time just gloss over those low tier changes, because for me personally, there's no point in playing them, you know. And he is right, that there are some changes to lower tier tanks where simply, for example, they put the Crusader on tier 6. And the Crusader is actually one of those tanks which I did play, you know. Wow, look at that, Raging. You're a low tier stats pattern. Actually, even free marked this very awkward tank. It was annoying. But the point is, the issue is, the Crusader will be put on tier 6 with no changes. And on tier 5, it was already an underwhelming tier. It was already an underwhelming medium tank, you know, on tier 5. And now it will be at tier 6 with no changes to either its gun, as far as I know, nor its survivability, really. Maybe some more HP. That's it. But with just 110 millimeters of penetration as a light tank on tier 6, with no mobility whatsoever, that is a big issue in my opinion. Again, I do want to point into this right direction, that we have to have an eye out for those changes in low tiers. And I do want to point out, I will try to do a more sophisticated video about this later. But I hope I was able to quickly gloss over it so you know that this actually is happening right now. Again, thank you very, very much for mailing me and giving attention to this issue. Thank you so much. And well, I guess let's jump to the last thing for today. And those are the things we are having for this weekend, which are pretty nice. Some Easter celebrations. You can see we have some discounts on basically everything. Consumables for equipment, garage slots, camouflages, low tier tanks, mid tier tank, high tier tanks, and premium tanks all around. Plus, today or this weekend will be a great time to try and grind some tanks. Again, I personally suggest playing Platoon with some friends, so you can try to carry yourself out of the misery of which weekend warriors can be. But you will get 2 times XP when you are top 10 in your team and win the battle. So this can really, 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 really jump forward your grind for different tanks. Obviously, again, you can buy some different things right here, which you like. I will be looking at consumables to stock up my secret bank in World of Tanks. Again, I already talked about this in a separate video about the black market, where, for example, consumables bought at a 50% discounts are literally your savings, because you can sell them for the equal price you paid them in without any taxes or anything attached to it. So yeah. Lastly, do I have one more thing? Yes, get your care package. If you have Amazon Prime, don't forget to get the care package. There are 2 new tanks in this game, in this care package to try out. The Zenlak, which is a very awkward tier 8 light tank. However, it has its cool things, and this is its amazing HE DPM with 90 millimeters of penetration. And the Kruppsteher Waffenträger, and I have to say something about the Kruppsteher. I personally very much enjoy it. It's a very, very fun TD, and it tends to be sometimes just a little bit my pocket pick when I'm a little bit pissed off or so. Oops, this is the wrong Sturmgeschütz. Here we go. This is the Kruppsteher Waffenträger of mine. I did free mark this tank, and it was actually enjoyable. It is a fun tank all around, because it has a very, very good gun for its tier. So you will see. Try it out. And one more thing. Do I have anything left? Maybe you get some more loot. Obviously, you know that. If you think I do a good job, you can consider Twitch priming me on Twitch. But that's up to you. Don't forget to get it though, because there are still pretty decent things in it. Most likely those buffs or just 5 times XP bonuses, as combined with the 2 times XP for every single victory, they will be pretty darn lit. So lastly, one more thing. I want to see if there are any more information which just came out right now. Let's have a look. And nope. That's everything for today. My name is RagingRaptor. Thank you so much for watching. Again, let me know if you enjoy this format like this. Today, I did try to put more focus on super test, then test server, and then random stuff. Let me know if you like it like this a little bit more. And as usually, if you have any other suggestions, let me know in the comment section below. I might try to work on a little intro, like as a newscast. We'll see how that goes. My name is RagingRaptor. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great Easter holiday. Cheers, guys.